There's this just cosmic misunderstanding at the beginning. Hey guys, it's Leah Badia, and today I'm going to be walking through the top 5 webcomics that will absolutely get you hooked. If you read these 5 and you're not into it, then webcomics probably just are not for you. I'm going to walk through a brief preview of why I've chosen each of these, but if you stay tuned in the coming weeks, I'm going to do much more in-depth analysis on each one. So especially if you are looking for more info, why you would want to read it, or if you're even just, wanting to listen along, that will be good videos for you to tune in on. Today's going to be kind of a brief overview, a little bit about plot, a little bit about the art, and the big thing that kind of hooked me for each of these. Some of them are ones that I've read early on, some are ones I've read more recently. I tried to do a couple from different genres, so even if you're not into romance, not all of these are romance, if you're not into action, etc. If you already read webcomics, I would be surprised if you haven't read all 5 of these, and if you haven't, what are you doing? At the end, stick around because I'll hit on just a couple of honorable mentions. Alright, number 1 is Cheese in the Trap. So Cheese in the Trap is by an author and artist called Soonkki. It's an original work, so no novel or drama or anything like that it's based on. There has been a K-drama made based on it. It's roughly 300 episodes long, so pretty lengthy, a little bit of an investment of time. So the general plot of Cheese in the Trap is we come in on a female lead who's our primary protagonist through the whole story, and there's this sense of, okay, she's talking about going back to college, she's taken some time off, we don't really know why, hinting at this tension with this male character, Jung, and they don't give you a lot of info up front. You have a huge buildup through the entire series that kind of slowly unravels this knot of like what is going on. So this comic is really unique in the sense that it's a little bit of romance. There's honestly parts of it that feel a little bit thriller. And then there's just a general like slice of life feel to it as well, where you're kind of going through the normal day-to-day life of the female lead. One of my favorite things about this comic is that it does have great surrounding cast that has character development through the series. Some people would say they would have liked to have seen even more character development, but I like that we were able to get into a little bit of depth of the why different characters are making their decisions, and the artist and author Soonkki just artfully weaves in these different pieces throughout the whole series that keeps you guessing, but just gives you these little tidbits as you go that make it a really rewarding reading experience. I love reading the comments of what people are kind of thinking about and processing as they're reading, and through Cheese in the Trap it's really fun to see the commenters' reactions about 2 potential love interests and who's the one that the character should end up with and why, and sometimes based off very real life reasoning, and then sometimes completely unrealistic. So the story itself is great. The comments are top tier as well. So you definitely want to be dropping in the comment section as you're reading through Cheese in the Trap. One of the things that really drew me in about Cheese in the Trap initially, and honestly through the whole series, is the artwork. Soonkki does a really interesting approach with her color palette. So the main character uses a lot of earth tones, oranges and greens, and very simplistic but very expressive line art through her artwork. One of the big things that I really enjoyed was the expressions through the eyes of the different characters. it's hard for me not to go too in depth because this is probably my absolute favorite. It's definitely the one I've read the most times. But the artist also has really interesting portrayal of like flashbacks throughout the series using just visual cues. So not everything is like detailed, spelled out for you, like, oh, 5 years ago or whatever. Like, you're left to kind of put together some of the pieces. It's not all fed to you on a golden platter. So the artist and author Soonkki does that artfully, and it's a top tier comic, and I would highly recommend it. My recommendation would be to check out Cheese in the Trap if you like a little bit of suspense, not necessarily full thriller, but a little bit of suspense, a little bit of romance, but not too fast. So when we talk slow burn, this is like peak slow burn. So if you haven't read it, please do. Read Cheese in the Trap. 2 is Veil, and Veil is by an artist named Kotteri, who is, again, both the author and the artist. So this is another original work. Veil is a little bit of a slice of life. There's this petite blind woman, from what we gather. It's heavily hinted at. She constantly has her eyes closed, but looking back, I'm not 100% sure it's like spelled out she's blind, but very heavily implied. And so she's paired with this tall policeman who's in a vaguely Eastern European setting. For me, it was like, oh, it's Russia, but it's not spelled out. It's not distinct in any sense. The focus of the whole comic is very light. So the art is something to behold. The artist kind of bounces back and forth between these very editorialized, very fashion forward feeling depictions of the main female lead. And then similar to what I enjoy in Cheese in the Trap, there's little vignettes where it will get a little bit lighter and more cartoonish and goofy. And her character contrasted with this tall, definitely placed as the male lead. Lots of plays on the eyes and facial expressions, soft interactions, things like that. So there's a little bit of like a tension between the two characters, but a huge like cozy softness overall. So definitely a comfort read in my opinion. Overall, reading Veil feels like flipping through an art book. It's very light, it's very whimsical, and like I said, soft. You are kind of enveloped in the artwork, and the story, the words almost feel like a bonus feature. So speaking to the art, it's these dreamy and delicate panels, it's very loosely drawn. There's a huge technical acumen that's obvious that the artist carries, but they don't carry it through in every single thing that's done. So some things are left a little bit more loose, and then some, the technical detail really shines. So very enjoyable to flip through, eye candy, just enjoy the artwork. I would highly recommend it for more of like a casual read, or even just to kind of enjoy from an artistic standpoint, not necessarily looking at it for this heavy plot. There is a little bit of plot there, which I'm not going to get really into with this, because for this analysis, what it really stands out is that artwork. The colors are vibrant and bold, stark contrasts, lots of reds and deep blues and yellows. A lot of the time I'll be reading comics late at night. I'll have like a screen dimmer on. This is one that I like specifically being able to look at during the daylight with my brightness up so that I can really soak it all in. Okay, number 3. Oh, Stevie, you're so loud. Come here. Okay, number 3 is Father, I Don't Want to Get Married. The original novel was written by Heesu Hong. It's the same title as the comic. And the author is Yuri, and then the artist is Roal. So out of this list, this is the first one that has, a little bit more going on. I have to read this because I keep saying this so weird. So essentially, the plot is that our main character is a female lead. That's a lady from our world here. This is my words. She read the end of this story. I'm going to use this term a lot, trope alert. So there's all kinds of tropes that are going to come out in this one. So she read the end of this story, trope alert. She's now in the body of the villainess of the story, trope alert. But now she's back in time, trope alert. So she can actually fix the whole situation, right? Like she can live happily ever after. She knows what's going to happen. So she can work everything out. So I don't know what story was like the first kind to have this kind of plot. And then there's also this whole subgenre as well where it's she's at odds with her dad. There's this just cosmic misunderstanding at the beginning where she believes that her father has set things up for her to die essentially at her own hands. Oh, terrible. And she goes through with it. She thinks that her dad completely hates her. And so there's just like constant misunderstandings happening through the beginning. That's a great plot device to keep things moving. The thing that I like about this story is the stakes feel both high but very low at the same time. The author at some point starts integrating these really goofy end of episode segments that honestly I don't think I've seen any other author integrate. So they will have this really, really dramatic ending to the episode, and then it'll cut away almost to like a credits scene that has the characters. It'll like tease the next episode a little bit or rehash something that happened, but like with really goofy illustrations. And so even if the episode itself was a little bit heavier, you get to the end and like you can't not smile looking at the antics that they've set out. So that's one of the things that stands out as very unique about this comic to me. There is a really pretty and aesthetic approach, not only to the characters, but their clothing and the environments. It's all very well done. I catch myself when I'm reading this one pausing a lot, looking at details about how the main female lead's hair is done. Oh, she has little braids and like ribbons in them in this episode, etc. Oh, look at the dress she's wearing. So different from the concept of like veil and the fashion being used in that, but very pretty, very aesthetically pleasing. A little bit of like a cool tone approach overall. For the coloring, there are very strong colors used as like themes through different characters. One thing to note though with this one, because I've mentioned before that I want this to be a little bit more family friendly overall. So the one thing I'd flag with this comic is that it seems overall good through the series. And then at the end, there are side stories added on that get like a 18 plus rating. So just don't go there. Number 4 is Solo Leveling. And I think I will be surprised if you're in this realm at all and you haven't heard of Solo Leveling at all. Solo Leveling has kind of set the expectation for a certain subgenre of more action-oriented comics. This has been published now. There's an anime that has, as of now, 1 season out. It's very good, very enjoyable watch, in my opinion. The author is Chugong and the artist is Dubu. It is based on an original novel, which is by the same author. The overall plot of this is not completely unique. I don't know, it could be one of the first ones of this style, but essentially one day in our world, all of a sudden, these portals to dungeons start opening. And at the same time, people start developing these special abilities. So within these dungeons are like the boss, monster, whatever, that has to be defeated. But then you get all kinds of special prizes for defeating them. We kind of open up on our main character. He is a hunter, so he has some abilities to fight against the monsters in these dungeons, but they joke he's like the weakest hunter. So he is doing this because you can make a lot of money doing this compared to normal work. So he has his mother who's ill, and he's trying to make a living, basically. So people are joking that he's the weakest hunter, and they build it up where it's like he's relatively well known in the community. He tries, but he's not really doing much of anything in terms of like success because he's so weak. The artwork of this series is, in my opinion, what I now view as like the standard for action. For me, I really enjoyed the pacing of this one. Even though it gets a little bit formulaic, there's still unknown variables that are at play. And the artwork does a nice job of complementing that, bringing in different visual themes. The beginning of this comic has very creepy villain vibes. The villain of this is like borderline horror comic feeling to me, and I don't read horror comics. I don't watch horror movies. I don't really like that genre at all. Even thriller is a little bit too much for me. And honestly, sometimes even action is too much for me. I'm not sure why I stuck through with this comic initially. I'm so glad I did, because the beginning of it is so creepy and it genuinely feels like you're reading a horror comic. Rereading it to prepare for this, a lot of the comments were saying similar things where they were like, stick with it because it gets so good. Very effective storytelling though, because the creepy aspects that are used to set that foundation at the beginning are called back to throughout the rest of the series, in my opinion, in a very effective way. And also, it's just the most iconic, creepy whatever that I've ever seen. And different things that I see now, I'm like, oh man, that reminds me of Solo Leveling, like those first few episodes. Definitely read Solo Leveling. Stick through it the first couple of episodes there because it feels like a bit much, but overall, as you get through the rest of the story, in my opinion, it does overall lighten up from there. You end up with this overpowered hero. It reminds me of One Punch Man in a sense. It's not as funny or comical as that, in the sense that, you know, he's strong, so you have this like confidence in reading that like he's always going to end up on top. And so you kind of feel like you can enjoy the read a little bit more, or at least that's how I feel when I'm reading action. I kind of want to feel that my hero is like, he's definitely going to win, right? He's definitely going to win. All right, so then that takes us to number 5, and I would say this one probably also lands pretty heavily in the action genre. This is called Weak Hero. This one finished up relatively recently. The author is Seopass and the artist is Razen. It's a webtoon. The plot of this one, essentially it's like there's a mob syndicate through these different high schools of fights. So they've like unionized. That's some of the comments are like initially like, are they unionizing like across their different like middle schools and high schools and things? And essentially, yes, that's the concept. So as if there isn't enough bullying tropes in different comics, that's a full focus of this one, but it kind of takes it to this whole other level. So Weak Hero is the title, and our main character is a weak hero. So he's very smart, and he uses his intellect and underhanded fighting methods. I think pretty much anybody would agree, in order to win at all costs. So he's constantly calculating from what he can see about who his opponent is and how he's going to take them down. The storytelling of this one is what shines through more than the art, in my opinion. The art style is like not my style whatsoever, but the story is so good and so well done that I could not put this down. It is just one I was like waiting for updates eagerly. One of the things that really stands out about Weak Hero to me is there's like this satisfaction component of having these different battles. You kind of see them setting up beforehand. You see that the author is kind of laying the groundwork for different characters and matchups, and you can tell that they're coming up. But when you see the like long build up have a payoff of different people having those battles against each other, how that closes up, what the next steps are. Maybe they're going and eating to like celebrate that the fight is done, whatever. The payoffs are really good as you go through the story. One note with this one is that there is a lot of cussing in this comic, so it's just through everything. There's no avoiding it. I don't know if somebody has done like a clean version or something like that, but it kind of just matches with the vibe of who these kids are. They're showing off to each other, so it's natural that, you know, they're going to be using pretty unsavory language. It's not every other word by any means, but it's pretty frequent, so it's just something to be aware of before reading. But great read, great action, great storytelling. I can definitely say that the comic is well worth your time with reading. That's my top 5. Love all of them. Will be rereading them probably over and over again through the end of time. I did want to include a couple of honorable mentions. A few of these are ones that would have potentially been in my top 5, except for the fact they're not finished yet, so I don't know where they're going to end up. So I'm just going to go kind of quickly because these are just honorable mentions, but I'll probably make more content about them down the road. So first, Concubine Walkthrough. Based on the cover and the title, it took me a long time of knowing this one existed before I finally read it, but now that I've read it, it's definitely on my reread list, and it's amazing. Number 2 is, the English translated title is A Man's Man. I think it's again, a garbage title. I would have never ever read this if someone didn't heavily recommend it to me. Somebody did the just read 10 chapters, and if you don't like it, drop it and don't ever look back. So A Man's Man, highly recommend. Fantastic. It's still ongoing, so it's not completed yet, but the story is so good. I'm super hooked on that. Another top one is Eliseed. Eliseed is by the same artist that did Noblesse, which is like a huge cult classic comic. I also like Noblesse. I think it's very good, but Eliseed is like next level because it has this balance of like cute and action, and the storytelling and art are both like chef's kiss, eye candy, love it. And my last honorable mention is The Remarried Empress. This one feels pretty tropey in some senses, but I had to include it because the one character, Rashta, who's like the villainess basically, in the comments, everybody decided pretty early on that her name was Trashta. That is iconic. I see people referencing Trashta as like a villainess in so many other comics in the comment sections. So I have to include it for that, but also it's a really enjoyable read. Vindication for being wronged kind of vibe. So yeah, The Remarried Empress is a very good comic. I'm now wondering if there's too much like spiciness in it. I don't think, but I'm also not fully caught up, so there might be. So take that one with a grain of salt. So there it is. That's my top 5 and my 4 honorable mentions. There are so many comics out there, and I doubt your top align with mine. So I would love to know what are your tops and why, and also if you heavily disagree with any on my list. I know I mentioned I Love You in my last video, and I definitely want to get more into that one, but I haven't read the whole thing yet, to be honest. I'm not sure if it's still ongoing. The last I had caught up, it went on another hiatus. So I'll tack that on right now as my number 5 honorable mention. But yeah, would love to hear what are your tops. So coming up next, I'm going to be going into more in-depth videos. So I would love if you would stick around, hit subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it. I want to hear your thoughts if I rambled too much or didn't go into enough detail on certain things. When I go into my deep dives, I've sort of started to develop like a list of the types of things I want to cover for each one, but now would be a great time early on before I get into it for you to give me feedback about specifics that you want to hear about, whether that is specific things about individual comics or if there is a specific comic that you think would be great for a video. So that plus I love recommendations. Hopefully there's great comics out there that I haven't read yet. I feel like I've read all of them, but I know that I haven't. So thank you so much for sticking around and watching the whole thing. And again, don't forget to click subscribe, like the video, drop a comment. Thanks for watching. Bye.